Welcome to the Spark Show. In this episode, I'll be talking to my friend Amy Coates. She is a business strategist, consultant, and online educator who teaches women how to make a full-time income in their side business so they can leave their 9-to-5. And Amy, thank you so much for being here today. So many of my students and listeners want to leave their 9-to-5, but they don't know where to start. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here and talk with you.
Yeah. So for those of you people that are listening that are not familiar with what you do, can you just give us a brief intro and how you got started?
Yeah. So I was in a 9-to-5 for almost over 20 years. I was a financial controller, decided that it just wasn't for me anymore. I was kind of bored in my job. Like I was doing accounting, which doesn't really it's not that exciting, right? And kind of stumbled upon this online work. And so I created a business called Virtual COO Solutions that took all of my skills from my corporate experience and I offered it to virtual clients. And I had some local clients as well. And it scaled really quickly. So I was able to replace my income in 6 months. And so I had a bunch of people, women particularly, coming to me and say, how did you leave your job? How did you start your business? How did you do this? And so I was coaching them. And then I stumbled upon this whole coaching world. And I realized that I actually liked that a lot more than doing accounting for other people. And so I started the 2-Week Notice Society and started coaching women on how to leave their job, how to create an exit strategy, and how to really start their own business.
I love that. And just from listening to your story, it sounds like you were side hustling before you actually quit your job. And so what do you think about that? Because some people are like, should I do it on the side? Should I quit my job right now? So how would you advise people if they're like thinking about it and they're wondering if they should be doing it on the side or just dive in?
Yeah, so everyone's situation is a little bit different. Some people that I work with have either lost their jobs or their jobs are eliminated, so they kind of have to go all in. This is like the net has to appear for them now. Other people who still have their jobs, I highly recommend staying in your job until you are making enough money that is predictable and sustainable in your side hustle that allows you to leave, because it's really nice to have your 9-to-5 income and have that to be able to invest into your business and not put that pressure, that extra stress on yourself to make something work in your business. It gives you that little bit of buffer.
Totally. And that's how I did it too. Like I was side hustling for about 2.5 years. And, some people are comfortable with taking the risk. Maybe you have, other money coming in or you have savings, but I didn't at the time. And so I felt like I needed to stay at my job until I could it wasn't until like I replaced it, but I wanted to at least feel comfortable.
Right, exactly. And I have the way that I kind of help people determine that amount is I work through them with their expenses, how much they want to make. Some people want to replace their income or make more before they leave. And some people are like, you know what, just they'll figure it out. They'll know like a certain amount of a number that, it allows them to leave. And it might not be what they're currently making, but just knowing that they have the ability to make more and they're good with that.
That sounds like your accounting skills coming into play.
Yeah.
It became useful after all.
I didn't want to mention it was an Excel spreadsheet, but
no, I mean, that goes to say, right? Like the skills that we do learn in corporate do transfer most of the time, right?
Yes, absolutely. I actually recommend really trying to utilize your skills and your expertise from your corporate when you're starting your business, because it's what you know, it's what you're good at, and it's a little bit easier to start making money that way then too.
But Amy, I have a question. What if you absolutely hate your job and like can't go in anymore? Like, what are the alternatives?
As far as starting a business that you love, like doing something that you...
Yeah. So let's say like, I'm at my corporate job and I'm like, I waited too long. Obviously I didn't start well enough. So do you recommend them getting another job in the meantime, doing something part-time?
You could, I would suggest that, or see if you could take on some consulting clients that maybe you could start making some side money on to utilize while you are building your business as well. I mean, I worked at Pottery Barn actually as a part-time job for a while, because I kind of did what I had to do in order to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying now is like, after being out of corporate for so long, I feel like worst comes to worst, like I can't go back. So like
Yeah.
I would literally do part-time at like Lululemon or somewhere where I could get a good discount, or even drive an Uber. Like that's not beneath me. Like you know what, but for me it's like the confinement and the restraint of my freedom is really what drove me to really need to like be my own boss.
Right. Yeah. I'm like completely unemployable right now. I mean, I could do something that has more flexibility, but to think about going back to like an office structure where I have to ask someone, or like, I can't take like it, I don't know. It just seems odd to me.
Same here. Oh my God. I think I would die, like literally die. No offense to anyone that's still working, but once you get out of it and you feel and experience the ability to be like, okay, I'm taking December off, or like, I need an extra 3 days, or I need a mental health break or something like that. It really is magical to be able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, even like most days I don't start work until 10 a.m. I go work out, I do my morning thing. I, do what I want, and I start at 10 now. It's honestly kind of a mind shift because I always still feel like I'm like late to work or starting to work, but I don't really report to anyone. So no one needs to care, but it's nice that I have that time to do that.
That's awesome. So one thing I also wanted to touch upon is I feel like so many people are afraid to leave their 9 to 5. Like there's obviously a lot of, we were brought up with the idea of a stable job and stability and stuff like that. And I feel like things are shifting now to seeing that like working for a big corporation for 20 years is no longer the dream, and like waiting until you're retired to travel. And so what do you think really stops people from like leaving their 9 to 5?
I think what you just said is that some of people are just brought up that way. I definitely was. I actually didn't tell my parents I was leaving until I had to tell them my email address was different, because it's not that they put pressure on me, but they were so proud of me for having a corporate job, making really good money and being at a good company. And it was going to be a total shift to go out on my own. Not that they weren't proud of me, but it was just something that was hard. But I think that one of the things that alleviates some of that fear is starting to take action in building your business, because you start to see the potential. When you're just sitting there and thinking about it and then Googling and seeing that everyone else has all this success and it's going to seem like really hard, or that everyone else is doing it, you start to think it's not possible. But once you start taking the action and you start getting some results, I feel like you want to leave your job quicker, because that's all you want to do then is work on your own business.
Yeah, I totally remember like the first time I actually made money on the side hustle. Before it was just like building. And then afterwards you're like, oh my gosh, like I made $100. I can make $500. I can make $1,000. So I love the concept of getting those quick wins and really like reinforcing that it's possible. I love that. Speaking of parents, and you said like you didn't even tell your parents, like what would you suggest to people who are like starting a business and then people are not really like supportive of that because they're like, oh, you have it good, you already have a job, like why aren't you just grateful for what you have? So what would you say to people who have people that are not so supportive around them?
Yeah, what's funny is I just did a Facebook Live about this the other day, because it comes up a lot that their either significant other or their friends or family aren't supportive because they don't see the vision. But also what those people are typically not seeing is what's happening internally. When we're not happy in our jobs, sometimes we put on that front, like that's how I felt at my job when I went to it every day. Like I had to put on this face and it was very fake. And then when I got home, it was like, I could finally release that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could stop
I
pretending.
totally know that feeling. I'm like back there. I'm like, ah.
Exactly. It's like you could stop pretending. But when other people don't see that, then sometimes they don't understand why you want something different or something better. So it's not always that you have to share what you're feeling on the inside, but just showing or sharing with them that, things are going to be better in your life, that you're trying to achieve something that you really want. And there's so much, as you know, unlimited potential in the online space. And that it can create an environment of freedom, flexibility. I mean, you can work anywhere, and there's so many more options than when you work in your 9 to 5.
Yeah. And I just feel like sometimes like our loved ones, like they have our best intentions at heart and they're just scared and want us to be stable. But like in reality, I feel like, jobs are not stable like there used to be, right? We talked about this a little bit about, like people used to their dream job was like to be at a big corporation and then retire there forever and stay there, but like that's not the case anymore, right? Like people think that they're stable at their job, but they can be fired at any time. Like even those big companies are doing layoffs.
Yeah, what's interesting, I would say in the last year, I've had more people book calls with me because they want to create a plan B. They know that something will happen in their company in the next year to 5 years or whatever it is, that their company will be bought out or their position is going to be eliminated, or they'll be replaced. And so they want to have a plan B, and they're trying to work on figuring out how to make that happen. So it's interesting. I think people are starting to realize that that is the case.
We're like, come on to the dark side. That is like Amy's job, to tell everyone to come over to this side where you can start work at 10. You can go to yoga during the day.
Exactly. Go get a Starbucks. Yeah, for sure.
No permission for travel necessary. I love that. And so you work with a lot of these people who are side hustling. So what are the first steps that you tell them to take when they either want to leave their 9 to 5 or when they're maybe just starting the business, but maybe they don't know what to do? What are your tips to get started on that?
Sure. First, this scares some people, but I always ask people to set a date that they want to leave by, because I feel like, which doesn't seem like something that like earth shattering, but I like it when people set at least a goal, because otherwise what happens is they say, oh, eventually I'll leave. And I'm not saying that this date has, yeah, exactly. And then it never happens, right? Like that's me trying to lose 5 pounds. So, it doesn't actually happen. It's like, but I feel like if you put at least some sort of date or timeline in it for yourself, it's something to work towards. Secondly is figuring out what type of business you want to start. Now, some people already know, other people don't, but figuring out that structure, like who do you want to help and how do you want to help them, are like 2 big questions that you need to start answering. And then I would say third is figuring out an exit strategy. So figuring out how much money do you need to have realistically? Are there things that you can cut back on in the meantime? I like to have people commit to like working hours for your business. Like consider it like a part-time job. Like Tuesdays and Thursdays, you're working a couple hours a night after work, and really committing to that time to work on your business and taking action and doing something, not just looking at Instagram, although we all love Instagram, but not just reading other people's blogs, but like actually doing something for your business that is going to help move the needle forward.
You're such a relaxed coach, Amy. You're like Tuesdays, Thursday. I'm like every day, every waking hour you have free. You should be working on your content.
I mean, realistically, yes.
You're so funny. So yeah, my influencers are doing this on the side. They usually have 9 to 5. So I told them how I did it. Like, not, I'm a morning person, and I made myself wake up at 5 a.m. and then I did 5 to 9, went to work. Luckily, I live close to my work, so I cut down my commute time. So there's like these little things that you could do to optimize that, right? Like squaring your commute time, working from home. And I'm doing the quote sign for people listening, working from home and like maybe multitasking and working on your businesses. instead, don't worry, I won't tell your boss unless your boss is listening to this.
Right.
But like a lot of that work from home time, like I was able to get a lot done. And it was not that I didn't do my work. It was just like, I felt like at work, I had to pretend like I was working even though I was done, just to keep up with a corporate pretense, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
When I'm done working, I can like walk out of my office and be done. I don't have to sit here and pretend like I'm working so that someone thinks that I'm working until 5 every day, you know?
Totally. So that's why I loved work from home days, because I'd like, what they gave me 8 hours to do, I could do in 2, and then the 6 hours I'd be working on my own business. So
I did the same thing. That's so fun. Especially towards the end when I knew I was going to leave, I was doing like the minimal work I needed to, just so that people didn't really think anything. And then I was always listening to podcasts or signing up for master classes or trainings and just listening to them. I think my coworkers thought I was listening to music all the time. I was like learning all the time at work.
I would book a meeting room to get on a webinar, and I'd be like, I have a meeting, and I'm like doing some learning, but I was really on an online webinar learning how to get out.
So funny.
But I love how you say exit strategy, because like when I was doing this on my own, I wish I had a coach like you that I could actually like make me feel like, one, I'm not crazy, and make it like more strategic on like what the plan was. And then someone to keep me accountable, that like you said, my deadline doesn't keep moving, right? Like every 3 months. So how do you, when you work with people on their exit strategy, like what are some of the resistance that you get on that?
Well, number one, I don't have the time.
Yes.
But I mean, we all have the time for things that we want to do. So it's a matter of making the time. A lot of them think that it's going to take a lot longer to build up their business or to be able to leave. And that's why I like to create a complete exit strategy with them, so they can kind of see how realistic it can be and give you the goals to work towards. But I would say time is the most resistant. And then I think as it gets closer, they get a little bit more scared and want to push it out, but they think that then they start to realize that, it can happen, or they're starting to get a little bit, I don't want to say miserable at work, but it's definitely less pleasant.
Right. No, like I totally understand that, because like it comes to a point where I think when you're going to leave, then you kind of don't want to exert that much effort. And that is a good reason to have a deadline. So then you're like, I feel like it's a mental preparedness.
Yes.
And I also didn't want to start resenting my job, right? There was a point where I was like, someone would kill for this job right now. And I'm just sitting here like, wishing, can't wait until I leave. But I feel like there's something to like something there where I was thinking about like, I should leave my job, because then someone else who actually wants it can be here.
Oh, that's super sweet. I never was that nice to think of that. That's funny. But
someone else who doesn't want to start their own business, right?
Yeah, right. Who has no interest in doing that. I actually started to resent my job. And this is something that I often share with people, is I did start to resent it. And what happened is when then I would get home, and instead of being super happy with my boyfriend, I took it out on him, because I couldn't really take it out on my coworkers or the people that I worked with, because I was trying to put on this happy face at work. So I did when I got home. So one of the things that I don't know that people recognize is that when you're unhappy in a situation, it doesn't always have to be a 9 to 5, but you start to take that out on other people, or it comes out in other ways. So it starts to affect different relationships. So that was something that definitely, and I drank a lot of wine at night, admittedly too sometimes, but once I made the shift, things got better. Relationship obviously got better. But that is something that I like to mention to people, is that if you continue to stay in that situation where you're really unhappy, there's like a bad ripple effect that starts to happen.
Right. And so what are some of the things people can do so that they're not doing that, where they're not like unloading it into a partner or friends or anything like that?
Yeah, I would say try and create your plan so you can quit sooner. That was one of the things, like I wish I would have, left sooner. I stayed. One of the reasons I had to stay is because I had a bonus structure that made me stay until a specific date. And it was a significant bonus. So I had to stay, which I hadn't given my notice yet, but I knew that I had to stay because it was contractual. So that might be other people's situation too, because that seems common these days. But, just really trying to do some self-care. I started to do, I know that you meditate in the morning. I started to do that. I started to create a morning routine where I really took time for myself. I started to get up early, not to just work on my business, but I had like a whole almost 45-minute routine in the morning. I think I read The Miracle Morning and created that and started journaling and really thinking about what I wanted and why I was doing this. And to really realize that it was short term, and that on the other side of this, it was going to be better. And that's why it was still in this situation. So kind of shifting my mindset about it and just like journaling, meditating, and I would say just shifting my mindset about it.
Yeah, and definitely another thing I want to add to that, just like from my own experience, is really like connecting with other people, right, that are in the same situation. And I know you have a Facebook group, Amy, for people who want to, secretly leave.
Yes, it's a closed group or private, whatever they're called. Yeah,
it'd be funny if your boss was in there, right? Yeah. Oh, hey, I didn't know you were in here too.
Whoops. Suddenly now we're like best friends.
Right? But I mean, really like being able to talk to those people because they're going through the same thing, I think is super valuable.
Absolutely. And what's funny is, you'll find this funny, is I was not on social media at all. And so I was like trying to secretly grow my business, being secret on Facebook, but like trying to grow a business on Facebook. Because I think Twitter was popular at that time, which I wasn't really on. And so like really trying to be secretive about it so no one knew.
That's so funny. Well, I started on Twitter because that was the thing that was going on when I was starting before even Instagram blew up. But I could totally relate because when I started the last job that I was at, people would like ask for your Instagram and everybody would just follow everybody. And they kind of could see that I was building my influencer business and I was tagging all these brands and stuff. And my boss would be like seeing it as well. And so he kind of knew like I was going to all of these events, I was working with all these brands. And I think he knew it was only a matter of time.
Oh, yeah. That's good though, that you just, stuck to your path and did it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, any other advice that you have, Amy, for people who are, doing the influencer lifestyle and they're wanting to quit their jobs? Any other advice that you have for them?
I think one of the biggest things that I hear from people, and I'd be curious to see if you hear this too, is that so many people stay in the research mode. Like they're constantly just Googling and they're like getting ready to get ready. And it's so heartbreaking when I get someone on the phone and they're like, I've been Googling on how to start a business for 9 months and they've never done anything. It just breaks my heart because after 9 months, you could be making a decent amount of money, in your business if you just take action. So you need to just start taking that first step and not being afraid of the failure, because we all have failed. We continue to fail, but we're learning what we need to learn. And just knowing that taking action is really going to get you the furthest. And the faster you can fail, the faster that you'll get the results that you want.
I love that. And you and I talked about this earlier before we started recording, but really, we started with a lot of people and they're still in research mode, like 2 years later, and nothing has happened. And we don't want that to be you. So if you're listening to this, hopefully you've already started, you've already taken action, and even like committing to the idea of like, I'm going to quit my 9 to 5, whether it takes, whatever date, even though you will have a deadline because Amy suggests you should. And that's a flexible deadline if you really need to move. I've had to do that where I've had to extend the deadline, but at least like you're aiming for that, right? Like it's a target deadline. And so I think that, definitely taking action, not getting stuck in the indecision. And I think what Amy says is great on like, you know, you could be researching, Googling forever. For me, I think you should, one, find a coach or mentor that you resonate with, and really learn from them, because that person has already done what you want to do. And I'm a big believer in coaching. I have a coach, Amy has a coach, we all do coaches and programs. And doing it yourself and waiting 9 months like will cost you a lot more than actually investing in yourself and learning from someone and getting that step by step from them. Do you agree, Amy?
100%, because I don't know what people, I mean, I haven't Googled information in a long time in that manner, but I don't know if that's outdated. I don't know what kind of information is out. Anyone can put information out on Google. So a lot of times we don't know what we're getting either. And you have so many questions in the beginning. And so it's important to have someone that can support you and guide you and that's been through it and knows how to lead you in the right direction.
I love that. So thank you so much, Amy, for joining us today and for giving us your amazing wisdom. And we will put your website, your all your information in the show notes for this episode. So thank you again so much for having us, for joining us today. And thank you for listening to The Spark Show. And we will see you in the next episode. Bye.